Welcome back to the studio here at Microcenter, and today we're going to take a look at this behemoth of a gaming laptop. This thing is impressive. This is the MSI Titan 18HX, and I've got to say, MSI has packed a lot of performance into this very awesome 18-inch gaming laptop. Now, first and foremost, this has an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5090. That's the mobile GPU variant, so that's 24 gigabytes of GDDR7 memory. That is a lot of VRAM, by the way. Like, that is a lot to put into a laptop. So that's going to be a beast for gaming, video editing, content creation, and even local AI usage. You can run a lot of those 8B models pretty well. You can run one of those lower quants of those 70B models. So that's actually really cool. This also comes with an Intel Core Ultra 9 285HX processor. So that's going to give you those 8 performance cores, those 16 low power efficiency cores. And that's going to be that really sweet combo with that 5090 to give you the best experience for, again, gaming, video editing, and everything else that you can really throw at this guy. And those are just the top specs. There's a lot of other things going on here that really make this a very impressive gaming laptop. Before we dive into all of that, we are going to play some games, do a couple of demos, try out a couple of different things. But first, I just want to talk about some of the specs of this MSI Titan 18. Now, I really love the display here. This is an 18-inch UHD Plus, a little bit taller than your usual UHD, and that is a mini LED panel with a 120 hertz refresh rate. I mean, that is just so cool. That is a lot of really great features to have on this laptop. It's a really crisp display. You're going to get really good colors with that mini LED. Great refresh rate for gaming. Always love to have at least 120 hertz. And this is HDR ready. I do have the HDR mode enabled, and we could take a look at that with the Windows HDR calibration tool, see what kind of brightness we're getting. But right now, right off the bat, just having HDR enabled, I can tell you this looks pretty bright. This also has 64 gigabytes of DDR5 memory, so that's a really good starting point if you want to use this as basically a workstation that can also do a lot of gaming. This also has 4 terabytes of SSD storage. It says that it is two 2 terabyte SSDs. So I was thinking, why don't we pop off the panel on the back and take a look at that? But it looks like that's an a RAID 0 configuration. I'm going to take a closer look at that one. This also has a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet right on the back, so that RJ45 port is located on the back, as well as an HDMI 2.1, and then your power cable for the power on this guy. Now, the power brick is a 400 watt power brick, so a lot of power supplied to this laptop. And this can actually, you can crank this laptop pretty high in terms of the performance settings that you can do with the MSI Center and some of the other things that you can tweak here. So one of my favorite features about this MSI Titan 18 is actually the keyboard here. This is a really nice keyboard. 99 keys, you get everything you need with a numpad here on the right, and these are mechanical switches. It has a very clicky, very tactile kind of feedback here. This feels like a regular mechanical keyboard. This feels really nice. These are cherry switches. You can use the SteelSeries GG software, which is preloaded on this MSI Titan, and you can change the RGB of any individual key, or you can change all of them together however you want, as well as the RGB on this touchpad here and on the logo on the back of the screen. So you can change the RGB everywhere. I just have it set to the rainbow mode, so it's just going through all the different colors. I will say this touchpad is actually really impressive. This has no mechanical parts. It has this haptic feedback, you know, it vibrates a little bit to make it feel clicky, and it feels like a real press. It's actually very impressive. When the laptop's off, you can't even tell that there's a trackpad here. This fully just powers off, and it just looks like a normal part of the base, like this wrist rest here. But once it powers on, the RGB comes on, you can set this to whatever color that you want, and this feels really good. This does all of the 2, 3, 4 finger kind of different motions that you would expect of any trackpad. So, you know, you can scroll up and down, 3 fingers should bring that up, and then I think you can, pinch the zoom. So all the normal things that you would expect of a trackpad like this. But I have to say, I really like the keyboard. not the greatest type. You know, I'm not a great typist, but you kind of get the impression. Like this just feels really, really nice. And even the WASD on there, I like that a lot. So the cooling for this has vapor chamber on the pipes. It also has 2 fans located on either side. It is raised. It has this kind of like raised texture underneath. So even though I have this on a mat, and I normally wouldn't have this directly on a mat, it's actually raised enough to draw the air that it needs to keep it nice and cool. And then it's going to blow it right out the back here. So cooling on this is actually really, really nice. And we're going to put this to the test. We'll take a look at some temps in just a minute. So on the side here, you have your 2 USB-A ports as well as an SD card slot. This is USB 3.2. Over here, you have 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, and one of these is actually really good for a high power draw charging. And you also have another USB-A, which I'm using for my mouse over here. And then again, on the back, you have your RJ45 for your Ethernet, 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, and you also have your HDMI 2.1 back there for an external display. But you can also do displays right here out of the Thunderbolt 4. So a lot of I/O, really good I/O here. And I'm thinking, let's just dive in and let's just try out a couple of different games. Now, I'm not plugged into the internet right now, but I am on Wi-Fi. This does have Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.4. So in terms of wireless connectivity, you really have the best of the best. Now for games, I'm thinking I'm going to start off with Doom Dark Ages. So just bear with me for a second because I just got these transferred on here, so I'm going to get them configured and we'll start some gaming. All right, so I'm getting Doom set up over here. 1 second. Another thing I want to call out, speakers on here are actually really, really nice. There's like 4 2-watt speakers and then some woofers as well. Pretty good dynamics. I mean, I'm not an audio guy, and usually I just play with headsets anyway, or at least, you know, headphones, headset, you know, whatever combination I'm doing. This sounds really nice, like really right out of the big gate. Like this sounds really, really nice. And let me just get all of our settings going. There we go. Okay, got everything set up. Doom Dark Ages ready to roll. Let's try it out. So everything's set to Ultra Nightmare. DLSS 4 is on, 4x frame gen as well. I'm going to try it with frame gen and without frame gen. Let's just drop right in. So with frame gen on, I mean, performance is looking pretty fine, right? 95% utilization on the GPU. Temps 74 for the GPU, CPU about 80s. So that's like looking pretty fine. CPU utilization is low. I mean, temps like that for a laptop, it's fine. I'm very forgiving when it comes to laptop temps because they can handle it. And this is me playing on the desk mat too. I actually kind of did that on purpose because I wanted to see what that would be like. So if you're watching this and going, oh, take it off the desk mat. Well, yeah, I'm kind of doing it on purpose. I want to see if this raised design of the bottom here is actually going to, you know, help keep it nice and cool and keep the airflow optimal. But so far, so good. Keyboard itself also not feeling, I could feel the warmth, right? When it comes to gaming laptops, this center area always gets pretty hot to the touch, but it's warm. It's not hot because I had an old gaming laptop that would get excruciatingly hot, like right here. This one's pretty okay. WASD feels good. No issues there. Fan noise, I can hear them. They're a little high pitched. They're not bothering me. Fan noise kind of comes with the territory when it comes to gaming laptops, but this is pretty okay. And I have this set to the max performance profile. They did have other profiles available in the MSI software that you can use. So if you want something more quiet, or if you want to optimize the cooling, I think I just crank this as high as possible, just because I can. Oh, I'm gonna punch this guy. Yeah, there we go. I punched him. So that's frame gen on, right? You know, we're holding strong. I mean, 160s, 150s, sometimes 170s, depending. This area has a lot of crazy flame and fire effects. I gotta say, with the HDR, like, this is really bright. I'm gonna check the brightness on this when we do the calibration tool. I didn't do that one yet, but this looks really, really bright. Let's take frame gen off and let's see what our performance looks like. I know a lot of people, you know, are either really for or really against frame gen. I don't mind it. I don't feel like it's hampered my gameplay at all. And it doesn't feel that bad to me, but let's see. FPS, so 60 FPS, 1% lows, 59. So, I mean, we're holding in the 60s. Let's see what happens when things get a little more chaotic. So we are dipping 53, 56. Now this is set to Ultra Nightmare. DLSS is on, but this is the highest graphical settings that you can get out of this. Like, I am purposefully cranking this. I like this game, but I have to admit, I like Doom Eternal a little bit more. Like, the pairing is neat. I'm still, frankly, like, not used to it. I really liked how silly Doom Eternal was and just the ridiculous mechanics of that one. Because that one, I just like jumping around and just doing acrobatics while just changing weapons constantly. And ew. So we're definitely getting, you know, lower performance here. And this is UHD plus, so 3840 by 2400, okay? So this is 4K, and this is still doing pretty well. Frame rate not as high as it was with frame gen, that's obvious. I can feel it a little bit. If I was going to only play without frame gen, I would drop the graphical settings a little bit, go from Ultra Nightmare maybe to just like a high setting all around. Actually, yeah, let's try that. Let's see what the difference looks like after. Excuse me, sir. I'm trying to talk about laptops here. Thank you. Oh, you too? Come here. I'm not blocking when I should be. You can criticize my gameplay all you want. At least I'm having fun. All right, let's see. So that's frame gen off, right? I'm going to keep frame gen off. Let's go. Let's just try high. All right, so there's an improvement. Let's give it a second to sort of catch up. 60 still. $67, 1% lows, 59. You know, this area is going to get a little chaotic, so let's see what happens. So GPU temp still holding 76. I think it was like 74 before. 98% utilization. And CPU 80s, 84. Jumping around a little bit. There we go. Let's see. Let's turn frame gen back on and see how we're feeling. We'll go right back to the 4X. Immediately feels smoother. I gotta say, I don't know, I kind of like it. I kind of don't mind. See, now I'm just playing the game. Now I'm just having fun. Yeah, I gotta say, I don't mind the frame gen. Like, I don't... It feels a lot better. I mean, I see the latency is definitely a bit higher, but I kind of like it. I'm not gonna lie. There we go. portal should close. Nice, save the day. Well, there's more portals to close, but either way. So that's Doom Eternal, or sorry, that's Doom Dark Ages. I just have Doom Eternal on the brain. But let's take a look at another game. So I'm thinking for our next game, why don't we try out Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered. This is another favorite of mine. Now, I'm just doing a couple of new kind of single-player games. If you play a lot of multiplayer, competitive games, you know, shooters, anything like that, your Valorants, Counter-Strike 2, it's going to run really well on this hardware. Those games are really optimized to run on a variety of hardware, so you're going to get the frames that you want. These AAA titles, you know, these are the ones that really kind of push hardware to the limits, these single-player titles that have like tons of graphic settings. Multiplayer games are usually not that intensive, especially if you're playing like League of Legends or Dota 2 or something. And it's always funny to me when I love talking to people and they're like, oh yeah, I have a 5090, and it's like, oh, what do you play? And it's like, oh, I play Dota. It's like, really? I mean, cool. Nice. All right, so I have Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered loaded up here. Looking pretty good. FPS 70s, 1% lows, jumping around 50s to 70s, FPS 70 to 80. But this looks very good. I actually have no idea what my settings are. I just dropped right into the world. So why don't we just take a quick look. So we're high all across the board. Let's go for ultra. DLSS is on. Frame gen is on. So that is all set. There we go. This looks really good. Let's see if I can catch this deer. No, I'm not fast enough. FPS, yeah, 90s to 100. 1% lows, about 60s. I gotta say, this is looking really nice though. Utilization on the GPU, 90s, jumping around. Temps are good, 74 across the board. Temp for the CPU, 79 to 80, so that's fine. Let's see.
Speak. Something I can help you with. Emperors have been assassinated before, but this time, I don't know. It's different.
Speakers.
Can't you feel it? A shadow has fallen across all of Tamriel.
Yeah, speakers sound pretty good.
Long live the Empire.
They're still a little bit, I don't want to call it tinny. It's a little bit on the higher end. There's a little bit of bass there, though. I just love the voice in this game. Yeah, FPS looks pretty good. Elder Scrolls Oblivion looking pretty good. I mean, this is what I would expect for this hardware. Hanging out in the 90s, 1% lows in the 70s, but graphically, I mean, this game looks so good. Oh my goodness. I love this game so much. Very happy with the performance here. Now, my only question is, they say frame gen, right? But it doesn't actually say if it's like 2x, 3x, 4x. I feel like it's just 2x because we only went from being roughly like in the 60s to like being in the 90s here. So that doesn't seem like that 4x kind of frame gen. So I'm wondering if that's something that'll come at a later date for Oblivion Remastered or what. I'm not really sure. And it doesn't specify in the settings anywhere. It's interesting, you can hear the audio on the right side. The stereo, the way it's pointed at you, the speakers, like the stereo actually sounds pretty good and like pretty immersive. You know, on the bass, not as heavy as I would like, but otherwise, playing with the speakers sounds good, drowns out the fans. So, yeah, I think it works pretty well. So in terms of gaming, I mean, that's what you're looking at with this system. You're definitely going to get some really good performance. That 5090 with that frame gen, I mean, that's really going to perform very, very well. And you have all the VRAM that you need to use for other things, which actually we're going to try right now. I have an SSD here. And I got to say, these Thunderbolt 4 ports, so good to have, especially for video editing, especially if you have a million of these portable SSD drives like I do. So I do have Davinci Resolve open, or I have it installed here. Let me get it open. Davinci Resolve, really GPU heavy. Definitely some CPU usage, especially if you start getting into Fusion and some of the stuff that's there. Oh, optimizing the neural engines. Okay. That's actually kind of cool. So with DaVinci Studio 19, it takes advantage of the NVIDIA GPU, and it has all of these different neural engines that you can use for optimizations. There's a lot of really cool integrations that DaVinci Resolve has with NVIDIA hardware, which is why I kind of lean to Team Green, that is hard to say, for video editing. I kind of like having those Intel CPUs with that NVIDIA GPU is kind of like my favorite combo when it comes to video editing. You get that hardware support, you get that, this neural engine support, all of those media encoders that you get on both the CPU and GPU side, so you get everything that you want. DaVinci's pretty good with encoding for now with ProRes and for DNxHR, which is that Avid codec. Handbrake is still a little bit of a better encoder if you want to encode for social media. Not to derail this into a whole talk on different video encoding settings, which, there's people out there that know way more about that than I do, but I've been falling into this. I like using DaVinci to give me sort of the highest quality version, like a mezzanine file, and then I'll use Handbrake to sort of get that down for social. And you can leverage both your CPU and your GPU for that, for DaVinci Resolve, and then again in Handbrake. So, when it comes to video editing, something like this is what I would want for editing on the go. That's kind of funny. I left frame view open when I opened DaVinci Resolve. I'm getting 24 FPS. All right, let me close this. So DaVinci Resolve, this is my editing program of choice. Premiere is fine. Well, I'll say this much. If you're thinking about converting to DaVinci Resolve, it has crashed on me very few times. I could probably count on one hand how many times DaVinci Resolve has actually crashed on me in the last 6-7 years. Premiere, on the other hand, well, it seems like it just loves to crash. So there's that. But DaVinci Resolve does really, really well with hardware like this. So this is our podcast. This is kind of like a multi-stream thing that we record. We have multiple layers here, a lot of different audio streams as well. You can see the CPU, GPU handling it, no problem. When it comes to performance for video editing, there's always timeline snappiness. So as you're scrubbing on the timeline, how snappy is it to jump around? It really pushes that random read-write speed of your SSD. It really pushes your memory, pushes everything else. So that's one important core feature. For color correcting on the color tab, you have your scopes and things over here. This monitor, really, really, really good colors here, really solid. So when it comes to color accurate work, you're going to do pretty well. There are some true color settings that you can do in the MSI Center. I always recommend getting an X-Rite or some sort of color checker and getting a calibration profile. I just always recommend doing that if you're going to do color intensive work, Photoshop, video editing, anything. It's really worth the investment long term. But when it comes to color, you're looking really good with this monitor when it comes to performance for both exports and editing in the timeline. I mean, a laptop like this, 5090 with a 285HX, this is a really, really good combo. So I gotta say, all in all, I'm pretty happy with this and I would edit on this. And another thing to call out, the 16:10 aspect ratio is also kind of nice because if you're gonna be editing on the go, having that little extra vertical resolution helps a lot, because then you can see more of what's going on in your timeline, and your preview boxes up here aren't squished as much. And the other thing that's really nice is this is an 18-inch display. So it doesn't feel cramped. Like, this actually feels really, really nice to edit on. So I'll say this much, running Davinci Resolve on here, pretty good. I'm not going to do a full export of this because this is an hour-long video, and I'm not going to do a full export here. But I will say that when it comes to a laptop of this caliber, you can really have it all. You can really do your content creation, your gaming, and anything else. Now, one last thing I want to do before we wrap up, I want to open this guy up and let's take a look inside. All right, so I just really wanted to take a look inside of this laptop, because as these laptops get bigger and more powerful, it's kind of nice to take a look inside and see what's going on. I see a bunch of screws here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But this should be pretty easy to come apart. There we go. So I've got my iFixit kit here, and I'm just using it to pry this guy open. So again, we got all those screws out, and you can just pry this. It's always a little nerve-wracking the first time you do this with a device, but once you get used to it, it's not so bad. You just got to find that spot and just pop out all the little bits. There we go. Cool. So I just used my iFixit screwdriver and my little pry tool. This came off pretty easy. Definitely have to do all of the screws, but other than that, it pops right off. Now, the way that this back panel is designed, by the way, it's really designed to maximize airflow to the two fans over here. Now, what's kind of cool is these stands here on the corner. It's these kind of several layers, like little waves here. And if you look at them kind of like this, you know, they're designed in a way where it's going to raise your laptop, but it allows air to flow through here, which is actually kind of neat. So it's not just one raised solid piece. Because it's individual little strips, it creates this little channel for air to flow through. And then obviously there's all of these raised channels here as well. So everything here, you can have air kind of come through. This is all open so you can get what you need. All right, so looking at the inside, we do have two SSDs over here. It looks like we do have a slot for a third SSD. Oh yeah. Yep, and there's a pad here in place. So if you wanted to add an extra SSD, a full 2280, you could fit that here. But it looks like, no, this one's also free. There we go. So Gen 4, Gen 4. This one's a Gen 4 slot as well. So this one is just one 4 terabyte SSD. Got it. Okay, cool. So it's got its pad on there. So you have one 2280 here. That's the 4 terabyte. Because on the sheet I had, it said it was two 2 terabyte SSDs, which I thought was weird, but it is just one SSD. You have your two intake fans, and then your CPU, GPU are located under here. I'm not going to pull this off. But you can see your heat pipes and the way that it sort of moves air through here. So this is looking pretty good. Wi-Fi right over here. Looks like there's another slot under here that can be cooled. Interesting. Okay. There's another SSD under here. This is the Gen 5 SSD. And it actually has a heat pipe running through to transfer heat to this heat pipe, and then it's running through to transfer that heat away. That is very cool. Nice. Now, this battery here, this is the biggest battery that they could legally cram into this laptop. And I mean that in a good way. This is a 99.99 watt hour battery. The limit at least to take it on an airplane with you, is 100 watt hours. So this is right under that limit. This is as much battery as you can cram into this device to still carry around safely. So that means you're just getting the maximum amount of battery that you can get. But overall, pretty easy to pry this apart, pretty easy to get in there. And if you want to upgrade anything, your memory is located under here. I'm not going to pop too much of this open, but your memory is under here. SSDs are here, and you have extra slots. So if you want to add any storage, I mean, that's pretty easy to do. So if you're like me and you're a big data hoarder, you shoot a lot of video, you want to download all of your games, you can add a couple of extra SSDs, and those are pretty easy to get at your local microcenter. But this is pretty easy to pry apart. Definitely going to need a pry tool just to do it safely, and putting it back together should be a breeze. There we go. Nice soft surface. Make sure everything's just fully clicked. There it is. Now, one nice thing I noticed, it looks like all of the screws are the same length. That's always a good sign, because if you're like me and you like to take things apart and you sort of mix the screws up, well, it looks like they are all the same length, all the same type of screw, so that's a really good thing to note. Now, some laptops of this caliber, they do have like quick release plates so you can access the internals, and I gotta say, I don't mind this having all of the screws and having to pry it open. Having upgraded my gaming laptop in the past, I'll say the screws and the pry tool, that's no stranger to me. Quick latches are really good, but the reality is I would take the sturdiness that you get over a screwed in panel versus a quick latch that you could maybe break and then you just permanently have a loose panel forever. I would rather just be able to screw it in and out. Those plastic teeth, so to speak, that keep it in place, they're not that fragile. Like, you can pry it open. They're meant to, be pried open multiple times. I mean, maybe you shouldn't do it once a day, but they are meant to open shut multiple times, so long as you're doing it carefully. So with that being said, I don't mind having a bottom panel to a laptop like this. This is still accessible in my mind. If you really wanted to upgrade it, it's pretty easy to do. And then when you boot it up, this is what I'm talking about. It's almost invisible, that RGB trackpad, but then it pops right back up. There's the color. And there you go. So I think that about wraps it up for this MSI Titan 18HX AI. This is a really powerful laptop. There's a lot of power that's packed into a relatively small package. I mean, this is still a hefty gaming laptop, but all in all, you get the performance that you want. You get a mobile 5090, 24 gigabytes of VRAM. You're getting an Intel Core Ultra 9. So you're getting a lot of really good performance here. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you are pro or anti-frame gen. I have to say, every time I keep playing with it more and more, I'm just falling into the pro category. But, that's my opinion. What do you guys think? And you can stop by your local microcenter to get your hands on a gaming laptop as awesome as this. And if you don't have a microcenter near you, then be sure to comment #I want a microcenter near me.